Okay, a short video today on Cornertangs. I get this question sometimes, not so much these days. I don't know if this horse has been beaten to death or something, but I used to get this question a lot is how do you haft a Corner-Tang, or what is this area for here? It looks like it has two notches on it in a weird spot. Okay. So I've been thinking about that lately, and I've looked at a lot of sources online and on forums and stuff, and they all have their own ideas on how to haft the Corner-Tangs. And there's even a book that has ideas on it. I can't remember the name of the book. Maybe somebody has that, or I'll look it up. Anyway, I've been using one lately. I cook a lot of brisket and other meats, and they usually come wrapped in plastic, especially the brisket. So I've been slicing open the plastic with a Corner-Tang knife and then cutting the meat if I need to with a Corner-Tang. And the way I'm using it, since it's difficult to use it this way, I find, especially when it starts to get greasy from the fat of the meat, it starts to slip around and it's not easy to hold on to. And I don't like having things dangle from my wrist, right? So I haven't put a lanyard to my wrist. I've just been using it without this lanyard. I'll talk about that in a minute. Just like this as a knife. Okay. It's just a simple wooden handle. The bark is still on. All right, and it's just hafted only with glue. It's just hafted with my glue with asphaltum and gum base. Okay, that's all it's holding it in there, and I'm able to slice through briskets with it. It takes a few passes, especially if it's kind of thick, right? But also if it's full of tendons. Sometimes there's a lot of tendons in that particular spot where I'm trying to slice, so it takes a few tries and it's getting kind of dull. And the plastic is making it dull as well, right? But it slices right through plastic easily. I think stone is the best material for slicing through plastic, it turns out. Okay, so I'll talk about this. I aligned the point with the handle, so it, if I spin it, the point is aligned properly, right, as a knife. Now, you can do this pretty easily with a Corner-Tang that's got a large base, right? You can even expand the handle and make it really thick. But what do you do with a Corner-Tang that's like this, with very little for the haft? Well, I believe most Corner-Tangs have at least enough there to haft onto a stick that's big enough, right? Especially if you taper it down, you can still use that to haft a handle on, and then use part of the edge if you want to wrap it. But I think usually they were just attached with glue. With this one, I would probably wrap it a little bit too, just to make it more rigid, and maybe extend the depth of the notch, so it's not going to be moving around because it's pretty long. The shorter it is, the less you have to worry about it moving this way. Okay, so that's what I think. This is how I think they were hafted, just on one side. If they were hafted, they may just have been hanging on a lanyard by themselves. Now, why would you put the lanyard on the stone and not the handle, right? I don't know, but it balances well if you do it this way. So let's say you put it on your neck, around your neck. It balances well. Of course, as it wears down, it's going to tip upward, but what can you do? Now, there are some Corner-Tangs that are really long, right? And then they have the very small base. What about those? Well, I think maybe if they're long enough, you can just wrap the blade itself with some leather and hold on to it, and there's enough blade sticking out the front so you can use it as a knife that way. And then maybe if you want to put the lanyard around your wrist, you can do it that way. All right. Now, I do think they were butchering tools. They may also have been fighting tools. So it's probably a dual use. Most tools back in the day were multiple use tools, in my opinion. Okay. So another feature that lends to the idea that this is also a fighting tool is they have this curious dip. Many of them in the upper part of the blade here, which makes the front more narrow. You know what I'm saying? This one is not so much, but if it's longer, it tends to have a dip here, right? So I think what that is for stabbing, in case you need to fight with it. You can at least get penetration up to here easily. I think self-defense, right? Or to open a hide. You push it into a hide and start to open it up. You need a kind of a narrow area to get it through before you start with the skinning process. So I think this was a multi-purpose type blade. You can use it for fighting, you can use it for skinning, and you can use it for slicing meats after you get it skinned. And then once it's fulfilled its use, you can hang it on the lanyard, right? Now, if you don't want to take the lanyard off while you're doing your business, you can just wrap the lanyard around the handle as an example, you know, and use it. Now, one thing I did notice about asphaltum that I didn't really think about before, asphaltum reacts with animal fat. So I haven't washed this off, I just wipe it off, right? But the animal fat starts to accumulate in the little nooks and crannies of this glue here because it's not perfectly smooth. And it's starting to accumulate more here in this area. I don't know why, but there's a soft spot. I guess it was laying down on a puddle of fat on my grill, and it kind of makes the asphaltum gooey. It comes off easily. Okay, and the other parts are not like that, but the animal fat seems to react with it and dissolve it or make it gooey. So I got to be careful with that. I got to start wiping it and washing it more carefully. But I cook brisket about once a week, right? So I've cut apart and cut plastic off a brisket about a dozen at least, and it's still pretty sharp. It'll still cut through the plastic well. It is getting dull, and I have trouble cutting through tendon with it. Through the meat's no problem, but through tendon, I'm going to have to start resharpening this blade here, this edge of the blade, to slice through the tendon easily. I can get through it with 3 or 4 swipes, but I'd rather just put, kind of saw at the meat and get it done in 1 or 2 passes. You know what I'm saying? Just like a regular knife. Okay, so it's been pretty cool. And I just put on this lanyard today, just for the video. But I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about putting a lanyard on it, but I just don't want to have this in the way when I'm cooking. I suppose I can just take it off. All right. Or I can, have a necklace with a little loop, and I can just stick it back on the loop when I'm done and take it off and use it. Okay, so this is how I think they were hafted. Just glued onto a stick. And I'm sure there are other ways of doing it that are probably just as valid. Okay.